Hi.
We're here again.
Happy Saturday, Saturday Night Live. It is our Labor of Love series with Tricia and Ellen, and we're just so happy to be here. And um, it's May 2nd.
I know. Wow, I can't
Oh,
believe it's May already.
I know it's crazy the time how it's flying by.
Hey, so let's see. I think we started this in October, right? So look at
I'd have to look. Yeah, it's
episode
wild.
24. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess we're what our 6 month mark.
I'd have to go back and look. I've lost track. I really have. But yeah, hair therapy in the chat says, "Yay, Saturday night chat." She's so awesome. I just adore her so much. Thank you, hair therapy. You're just so nice and such a good friend and such a great
She's so
moderator.
supportive. She's a great mom. We thank her so much. Thank you.
Shit. Well, I want to bring up our the two folks that we have because you and I both admire them so much. I've interviewed Tim on the Truth Teller Tales interviews, and we've interviewed Dr. Michele on Labor of Love, and they're both just so amazing. And so while Tim is in the United States, I thought, oh gosh, if I could get them to come on together, that would be the greatest thing ever. So luckily they were available and they were able to come on. So I've been so excited for this. So I just want to bring them on. Tim and Michelle, hi.
Hello. Good to see. We just turned down a call from Mar-a-Lago to go over and see Donald, but I said no, we've got to be on here. So.
I wouldn't doubt it. Do you feel like they would every time you come to the United States, all you do is sit in Zoom all day?
Oh, look, we're pretty measured. I do a few shows, but I try and do them when Michelle's working or however it works. But this is fun.
Yes, and we have so much to dive into because Dr. Michele blew my mind when we interviewed her before about the things she is doing and the path she's doing. And Tim, you're always so the things that you say, I'm always like, I just want to write them down and you know. So the two of you together, oh, it's just so fantastic that the energy and everything that you both have.
Positive.
Yeah, it really is.
Positive.
Are you having fun in your stay here in the United States?
It's awesome. Yeah, I just love being here around you guys. Like I've got so many friends, and for reasons that have been very organic, I kind of just took such an interest in you guys. You know, kind of probably at the Q movement, and when Trump got in, I remember looking. I actually thought of Trump as a wrecking ball, and to be fair, he kind of is.
Yeah.
But I remember looking, and I went, "I'm going to watch the US for a little while. This could get crazy." And so, obviously, the first year. I was watching, but I had also already done research on Trump's birth certificate and 9/11 and the central bank system back in 2011 to 2014 was kind of my real awakening to everything. So by the time Trump came, I'm like, this could be fun. And then Q came off the back and I just went, whoa, I think there might be some decent people having a red hot crack at fixing some things in the US. And I still hold to that view.
Yeah.
So I love it. Love being with you guys.
I do too. And you brought up Donald Trump with the birth certificate about Obama, correct? You were talking about?
Yes, the Obama birth certificate.
That was the first time for me personally, I saw him go in on something hard. And I'm like going, oh my gosh, what is he doing? Even though I agreed with him and I thought, but people just were like, God, stop it. Why are you doing that? That's ridiculous. It was the first time I saw him going in. Little did I know that was just the preview for him, you know?
It's just warming up.
But I think he does that. I think he does that because he knows the truth. Don't you think that?
It's really hard to know how much he knows. I think
Yeah.
he'd be as read in as much as the president needs to know. But I also think knowing too much could also be dangerous. We really don't know quite. I mean, we all speculate and have fun, and I think that's an awesome thing to do.
Yeah.
But we don't know because like military generals would absolutely know more than the president of the United States. They'd have more context, and there'd be certain actionable things required. We've talked about it on shows and privately. I think there's a good to fair chance you guys have been under military control, potentially even as since 2001. We can all have fun exploring, and there's executive orders. You've got Presidential Directive 51 that could have done it. You've got all his PEDS, the emergency action directives that he put out 10 days before leaving office the first time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I hope we find all that out in updated history books, you know? That would be so awesome.
But I was chatting just before we move off him. I was chatting with a guy yesterday, and we watched very closely, and we were talking about the fact that he goes to the battle almost like he's military trained. And I remember it was very early on. He did something at an airport where there were people 360 degrees around him, and there was a guy rushed him, I think, with a knife, and there were security people around him on this platform. It was a raised platform. And Trump's first move, the moment the guy broke and went at him, Trump went at him directly. And then the Secret Service guys pulled him back, and you could see him go, oh, that's right. I need to be presidential. It was insane.
Wow.
And you saw the other night when, the shooting happened at the press affair, and Melania and the fellow standing next to her were in horror as they heard the guns, and Trump was still just smiling, looking sideways at that event. And he took 2 seconds before he even flinched. So he's trained. You can see that he's trained. Even when the media go him, he just goes silent, and then he'll move in with a response. But he's very measured. He's an interesting cat.
Well, then you could also ask which Trump was it?
Oh my gosh!
More than one.
Right.
That's
right?
So true, though. Yeah, but I hadn't really even thought about that he would move in. That's fascinating, Tim. Actually, think about that. It really is. There's just the speculation is endless, isn't it?
And I'm good with it. I reckon it's fun.
It is
like
fun.
Everyone can. You don't have to tune in if you don't like it. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, before we get into another topic, I wanted to just be able to talk a little bit about the event I went to last weekend. It was called the Awakening Summit. And I knew it was going to be interesting. First of all, Donna Ferrara, we've had on our Labor of Love series when she was talking about it. She's this hilarious New Yorker, and she has a heart of gold, and she just had this vision of putting together this summit. And so hopefully she'll do a lot more. And she had all kinds of truth people there. I mean, she had Dave and Rambo, but she also had a woman, Laura Worley, who we also interviewed, who was trafficked as a child, and she had someone else who was in the secret space program, and she had so she had all, and I was aware of all of them because I've interviewed a bunch of them, and I thought, oh, how is this going to be with Derek Johnson and Dr. Jan when they all get together? Because I could tell that some of them had never heard some of these stories, and it was fascinating to watch them in the same room, because there was a lady there who's fantastic, who I want to have on, and she really helps trafficking folks who are in New York, in a couple counties there, but she deals exclusively with traffickers who have been prostituted on the streets and helping them. She had no idea of the whole other level of trafficking, of the satanic ritual trafficking and adrenaline. Never heard of it. So you should have seen her face.
Oh boy, you guys just ruined her week. she's going to be going to the deep, dark night of the soul for a while.
Yikes.
And at one point she even yelled out, "I didn't sign up for this," because it was traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was all okay, and but it was wild, really cool. And so my husband takes me, and he just supports me, and he doesn't really know about all of this stuff or dive into it, but he said, "Who would you like to meet?" of everybody there, I said, well, two people I haven't met is Derek Johnson and Dr. Jan. And so we checked in on a Thursday night, and we walked to the lobby area, and who's sitting there by himself? First person I see, Derek Johnson. And he has a baseball cap on and an army jacket, and I introduced myself, and then he stood up and shook hands with my husband. And then we hung out a little bit after at the big open bar area they have, and Donna joined us and this other speaker named Chris. Here's what was so interesting. He was so soft-spoken and just gentle. And I was like thinking, what? Because that's not the guy that I knew. And I told that to my husband. And when he came up on stage, totally different. And he was hot under the collar, because after he had heard all this stuff about more of the woo-woo stuff that's happening, he was like, let's get back to what's actually happening on the ground. We need to be talking about it. So and I was like, yep, that's the guy I know for sure. So that it was just very fascinating to see that people just talking as themselves, and not up there, doing the other thing. But I have to say, he had a good effect, on my husband, with understanding stuff, and especially Dave from News Treason and Rambo were really good at explaining things, and as well. And it was just a wonderful event, getting all those different ones together. I just want to show a couple quick pictures. So here was it that first night I told you about. That's sitting there with Donna is between us, and then named Chris O'Connor, who was in, he has written books. He's an author about the space program that he was in. So that was just very interesting. That was the first evening. This was a Italian dinner. This was that we all got to go to. You see Dave and Rambo there. I'm at the very back, and I'm sitting across from Patrick Gunnels, and we literally talked musical theater stuff the whole night. We were talking about
with a couple of references to lotion, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Tim. I said to him, I've bought 2 of your products. And he said, what? And I said, I couldn't remember. I said, the cast or something. And he takes out his phone, and he just up on his phone. He goes, yeah, you bought 2 of my products, the vitamin C and the castor. I'm like, oh my God. So he can check up on me on my phone. I was like, thank God I wasn't lying.
Right.
He was checking up. So that was wild. That was definitely wild. Here we all are on the bed. It's hard to see. They try to take a group picture of all the people who were presenting there. There we are at the beach. Look how small. I'm 5'5". I'm not that small, but that's Matt Geiger kind of leaning in, and Joe from True Stream and Jordan Clark were out. The hotel was right there at the beach on Long Island.
So that was the nice day of weather.
Yes, exactly. And they're the Truth Stream fellas. They're the nicest guys in the world. Just genuinely wonderful guys. This was a hilarious picture. There's Jordan, and then Stu from Patriots Across the Pond. He helped MC it. So that was really fun, and it was just very fun to see their personalities and meet them and see them interact. All these different folks. So
that was Stu's first time in the States, right?
Yes, that was Stu's first time in the United States. So he and Elisa have a podcast called Patriots Across the Pond. She's from Long Island and he's from the UK, and it's a really good podcast for sure. So that was our adventure, and she wants to have another one, and I hope she does. And it was just, as an observer, and I love observing, just watching, like Laura Eisenhower was there too, watching her speak to Matt Geiger and all these intertwining of these truth worlds. It was really fascinating. It was fascinating to see.
Yeah, meeting together with Patriots is fun. And, it's just a bit over a year now since my first visit here, and I think 29 in that Vegas weekend from people all over the States that I've been friends with for years and never seen them in real life. It was incredible. And many of that 29 had never, they're from here, but they had never met each other in real life either.
Yeah.
So it kind of grew. Once there was about 6 or 8 of us, and they're like, well, Timmy, if Timmy's coming from Australia, I'm in. And it just went whoosh.
Yeah.
Oh, yay. No, that's fit. And there seems to be more get-togethers that people want to have, and are happening as well. And I think it's just going to increase, I guess, as time moves on with what's happening in the world. But it is lovely just to actually see somebody that they're human, for sure. But but I would say the person that was the most different up on stage was Derek Johnson. It was a difference. And he perplexes me because he wore a baseball cap the first night when I showed. It was a special service special. It was the one with that's the emblem on the hat that is for special services. And who knows, but it was all very, very. I think we're all so used to just really taking things in, and I was like just really taking it all in. It was so interesting. Tricia, you want to say something?
I think you had a second person that was on your list.
Oh yeah.
I didn't want you to forget that.
Thank you. I'll make it quick, but yes, I appreciate you so much. So Sunday morning, it was a rainy day and everything. And Sunday morning before the event, my husband was nice. So he was bringing the car around since it was raining. And I'm in this little front part of the lobby by myself, totally. And I hear this, well, hello there. And I look around and I look down and I'm like, oh my God, Dr. Jan, the second person I wanted to meet. And she's walking her dog. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. She just happened to be there. I just happened to be by myself. And she said, I don't know how to get to the event. I don't know. No one's told me anything. I'm not sure. And I was like, oh my gosh, we'll drive you. She's like, but I have to walk my dog. I'm like, we'll wait. I promise you we'll wait. So she's like, okay. So we waited, and then she had grabbed her bags and her doggie, and they all went in the back seat of the car. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 20 minutes by myself with Dr. Jan driving to the event. I can't believe this is so cool. So we had this lovely conversation, and I was like, yes, mission accomplished, Derek Johnson and Dr. Jan. So
That's awesome.
I was Ellen, you're going to have to get that shirt. I'm not a Fed. You're going to start getting accused of being a Fed.
Yeah, exactly. So that was awesome. That was awesome. So thank you for reminding me of that.
You didn't make the mistake of going from naught to adrenochrome in 10 seconds, did you, Ellen?
No.
Good.
But I watched Dr. Jan's face on some of the things that were covered, and oh my goodness, she was like, what? Because there was a fella there, like I told you, Chris, that we took the picture at the beginning. He's from the secret space program, and he says he's lived on Saturn, for many times. Right. And so it's just, that's like deep. And I don't know. I don't know, but I could see Dr. Jan going, for all these different things. It was just
Dr. Tim's going, what?
Wow, and they think the Q-tards are.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was so interesting to see them all together. So, well, that
what did he say? What Saturn was like? I'm sorry, I can't help but ask.
He in his talk, he mainly talked about the people he was with and that are not of this realm, and the missions he was trying to do and things. And basically it's a whole book. So it was the shorter version of that. Carrie Cassidy was there as well, and she was she just does her thing, but that was really interesting too. Just all the different personalities together are just really, really wild, just really
I love the way you
interesting.
put that, Ellen.
Yeah, just really interesting. But enough about that. Anyway, so Tim, you have such. I want to ask you where, you started to go into when you started questioning things, but you see things at such a higher level. I want to say higher, but just at a different level. And Grow Wizard does too. I think that's why you guys have such good conversations. Where do you think that came from? Where you're able just to kind of tap into things and look at things at the 40,000-foot view?
Oh, never thought of that. So I lived in the Solomon Islands until I was 6, from 3 till 6. And I was homeschooled by my mum, and literally walking around the island had no real services. I can't even recall whether we even had electricity. I think we perhaps would have, but probably on a generator. It was a very remote island in a remote part of the Solomon Islands. And that was just an amazing time. I have good memories of that, really just being like free range, not even being at home, just walking, half a mile from home up beaches and exploring with my younger brother, who would have been 3 or 4 at the time. And you just think about what that unlocks through very critical formative years.
Yeah.
And then the horror of coming back into a Western school system straight away. And I remember that being traumatic.
Yeah.
But then we moved out to a country town, and I had a really good childhood. My dad was a church pastor, so we were actually over there as missionaries. And so I grew up with a pretty fundamental Christian view, but I always had, my dad and mum were both always very lateral. They're always stretching things and pushing the boundary. And I even remember sometimes in my late 20s, I'd be pulling dad into line. I'd be going, hey man, like that's, be careful. Whereas now I'm like, God.
That's interesting.
But I always loved, I think I loved the idea of structure, formality, and I think knowing things. And to cut a long story short, I got to a point in about 2008, I actually kind of felt to just leave church completely and have time, because I'd lived it all my life. And I kind of made the point as I wanted to explore my faith away from the teachings of man, because I started to see holes in everything. Like even just a silly thing, like, hang on, 95% of people are lost forever because they don't believe a certain way or didn't pray the correct prayer. That doesn't sound like God wrote that story, like, because God kind of said he doesn't want anyone to perish. And I just started going, no, I don't know, something's wrong. And I saw holes in everything. And I only took 6 months to get out of it. I didn't walk away from faith. In fact, I loosely say I walked from belief into faith, and I walked from belief in God into the experience of God. And I've kind of been having it all ever since. I didn't move into disbelief on anything. I just kind of hold it outside of my brain, which can't really contain everything. So that was kind of somewhere in all of that. And then in the end of 2010, I essentially lost everything financially, and then started, in that space, I'm going, well, the first book I read was G. Edward Griffin, Creature of Jekyll Island, because that's what you do. And then I found the pharmaceutical industry and big pharma, and I went, this is a sickness industry. And I was drinking through a fire hose for the first 6 months of 2011, and it was incredible. And it completely transformed me. And I started looking at the Bible, like trying to unlearn the bits that were man-made and find the threads and the nuggets that were all in there. So I was looking at Greek and Hebrew and like everything. I go pretty deep, and it was fun. So all of that. And I think once you get into form, we call it rabbit holes. Once you go down a few and you get in form and you just think, okay, something, not all is as it seems, then you can just play and explore stuff with a bit more fun. And I I think what I'm good at is seeing patterns. I love human behavior and watching patterns. I'm trying to look at the ingredients that make me just view things differently. And I think as well, like, I don't bother saying, like, if 90% of people are saying the same thing, they don't need to hear from me as well. It's like, you got that covered. I'll come at something from a different angle.
Yeah.
And
which you do.
I just sense different ways. Yeah. So it's not deliberate. I don't overthink it because it just kind of flows out of me.
But I love that when you were, just absorbing all that information, that you were going down rabbit holes, and I'm sure you were going down darker rabbit holes where you realized that we've been, lied to about a lot of things, but at the same time, you were going down and understanding and picking out things, in the Bible and things that are said um, that are powerful and true and real. That probably was a really good balance as you were exploring at that time, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah. I was influenced by a really powerful book, which I read in around about 2009, 10, and it was called Creation's Jubilee by a guy, US author, Dr. Stephen Jones. It's a fantastic read for anyone who wants a stepping stone to look. He's essentially a theologian, but also a linguistic expert, and he looked at the idea that the whole story of mankind illustrated through the Old Testament is actually speaking into cycles of reality that will eventually result in a jubilee for everyone. Pictured first for the the Israelite people, but then that would bear out on earth. And it's profound. And he also wrote a book called Cycles of Time, and very, very edgy, innovative pastor. And that explores, the idea of, hell being not a forever thing, but a temporary place. And those things were all things I was pondering. And he gives actual biblical references and really good insight around it and how it was all foreshadowed. And that was, I don't necessarily, it's not exactly where I'm at now, but it was a beautiful stepping stone for me to launch on into.
Yeah.
Because my mind, I have to unlearn things. I can't just walk away. I have to go, well, how did I get into this mess, and how do I unravel it? Walk all the way back down the path that I did. And I learned a lot doing that. So that's kind of my personality.
And so that first book you said, Creation Jubilee?
Yeah, Creation's Jubilee.
And what's the author's name?
Dr. Stephen Jones, PhD.
Okay, great. Awesome. Yes, thank you for that. Dr. Michele, hi.
Hi.
I remember when we talked, all of us talked, and it just goes to show and that's why I love hearing people's stories, because everything makes sense when you hear their stories as to why you are who you are. And I think I remember that your mom just got a random
encounter,
yes, with somebody that basically changed your life without you even knowing it, correct?
Well, it kind of formed the direction eventually. I mean, it was still my choosing, but it definitely made the path a lot easier. But yeah, she ran into a woman when she was pregnant with me. My sister was in a stroller, beautiful baby, and my mom and dad immigrated legally from France, and they had to jump through hoops and all that stuff. But anyways, they were speaking French, obviously, to each other. It was probably, they had been here a couple of years, but and they were in the supermarket, and a woman, turns out, who was Belgian, overheard them speaking and came right up, and said something about how beautiful my sister was and whatever, but in French. But it was kind of the icebreaker. And one of the first things out of her mouth was, "You're not going to vaccinate, are you?" Which was crazy. I mean, that was crazy. That was just insane. And so she introduced my mom and dad to a book that had been written, I mean, at the turn of the century then, of a guy who was, I don't even think he was a doctor, to be honest, but he was exploring healing. And that's when leprosy was a big thing, whatever. And he was actually healing people using cold water and diet, basically. And so my mom she devoured this book and completely, my dad tells the funny story of how she basically gutted the house, gutted the kitchen of all the things, refused to let my dad use certain things or eat certain things because she was to the book, wanting to follow this. And so because of that book and that encounter, I was never vaccinated ever. And thank God. And I also I didn't see my first medical doctor really, truly, until I was probably in my early 20s. And, we did everything naturally. There was never anything so grave that, it would require, they weren't stupid. They weren't going to ignore, a situation where, I could die or whatever. But they just realize that the body heals itself. You just have to give it what it needs when it needs it. And so I grew up with that mindset. And quickly found out in my early 20s with an illness that I had that was, didn't understand what was going on. I went into fear and went most Western medicine, which had never been my thing. It was insanity, the things that they did. Like, just they were throwing everything at it without having any reason to do so. And I started watching this and spending the money and going from this doctor to that doctor, and the way it was just so fragmented. I sat there finally and went, why am I doing this? My roots are in holistic. Go find a holistic doctor. And so I ended up, going through a whole healing process, which was another layer of my, the hard turning of the cog for me to go this direction. So it's interesting, chance encounters, is there ever really a coincidence? I don't think so.
No, that's so. And so your beautiful sister that got the attention of that woman, was she vaccinated?
She had been vaccinated with her first set. Back then, it wasn't as much as anywhere near what it is now. And my mom decided no more. That was it. She only got her first set, and that was it. So she falsified documents. Of course, it wasn't anything like it is now to try to get into, elementary schools and whatever. Like, they just basically ask. And she basically faked a vaccine schedule for me and kept submitting that to the school. And so I got away with it.
That's that was my next question, Michele, was going to be, was how did she avoid that whole process of, like you said, so they weren't as strict then. Now,
and they didn't have digital records and all that stuff. I mean, so and no one really heard of people not vaccinating their kids. Whereas now there's quite a movement. And even like 2 decades ago, there was enough of a movement where they're like, okay, we're going to have these laws and you're going to have to prove it. And, any doctor that's found to falsify anything is going to lose their license. And now in California, you can't find a pediatrician who, will even see a child that's not vaccinated because they're afraid of the liability. It's disgusting.
Well, they're doing that with our dogs now with the rabies shots.
I know. And they're doing mRNA. So they want to get everybody.
And I think, what I think too, I think we keep talking about this, that there has to be parallel opportunities for people to do something different, like what you're doing, Dr. Michele. And we're going to get into, the healing technique in your chiropractor that you're doing. My daughter found a concierge doctor who is holistic and does not even attempt to vaccinate her children. And so people are going to find other niches. And that's what we're going to move into. Do you think that might be it?
Oh, 100%. I mean, they're already doing this. They have been. I'm also in California, Southern California, so it's already been going on here for a long time, holistic. But I have seen growth since 2020 in like the types of people who are now going, this is where I want to go. And it's actually really interesting to just observe this. It used to be kind of specific types of people. And now it's just opening up to people like, I don't really know what you do, but I know that I can't go that way. So it's really interesting to see people opening up to it. And it's a breath of fresh air. It's like there's an exhale for me, because just where I see things going, where I've seen things going medically and for health for people is absolutely frightening. And then 2020 just like put a period at the end of that sentence, or should I say an exclamation point? It's pretty bad.
Yes. It was the worst of times and the best of times, because it opened people's minds up to things that were unimaginable. And Donald Trump put Dr. Fauci front and center, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I mean, and that man was doing some bad stuff with HIV and everything. I say this all the time. He cannot still be walking this planet. I mean, he can't be, because he was such a scoundrel and so horrible for so many years. But boy, was he front and center for that. you know?
Yeah,
That was
no, for sure.
that was wild. Well, and so the two of you, tell me how the two of you kind of got to know each other.
You want me to tell this part of the story?
Yeah.
It kind of starts with something I created. So I when was it, in 2023 or something? I don't remember exactly when. A few years ago, there was GART through Badlands. There was a GART coming into my area, and I had gone through. I woke up to the Q stuff in 2020 because of COVID. I was awake to the secret society stuff, 9/11, all that stuff. I already believed was all the falsities and the things, strange things going on in the background I knew about. But 2020 is what like blew it open for me. And
Yeah.
and so I had been gravitating towards things on YouTube. I didn't have an X account or Twitter at the time. So I didn't really know what was going on. I was on Facebook, which was cesspool. And I
Yeah.
had stopped. I just pretty much stopped being on Facebook. I still have an account so that I open it every once in a while just to kind of take the temperature. And it's still bad, but but then I ended up on Telegram, but I also I started trying to follow different truthers that resonated with me. It always had to feel right. There were
Mhm.
some where it was like,
Yep.
okay, let's stretch. And that's, I could be wrong, but it's just like, I'm going to find my comfort in all this stuff. There was so much to learn. So when everybody got blown off, all the accounts got deleted, and all the best accounts that I was watching got deleted from YouTube. And I'm like, what do I do? And it took a while. And then I found Badlands. I found the devolution stuff through X22 actually. So I was late to the game there. But when there was a GART coming around, or backtracking a tiny bit before that, I started watching all the shows and they were great. A lot of the content was like, oh, finally something that really resonates from people that aren't trying to
Mhm.
shove it down my throat, and I really enjoyed it. And so I kind of started, started watching the chats, and it went too fast. I don't know how people do the chats.
I know.
I try, and then I'm like, you either watching or you're chatting. You can't. I don't know how people do both. Anyways, but I kept seeing the same names, and it was so obvious that people were like, "Oh, are you going to the GART?" Da, da, da. So when the GART came around my area, it was happening on my birthday weekend, so I knew I couldn't do the whole weekend because I already had plans, and so I decided I'm going to go to one day. But I was like social anxiety, like all these people already know each other. I felt weird. I felt like I was going to sit in a corner somewhere and not meet anybody, and the purpose for it for me was more to meet people, and like I needed new community. I had no more friends left. And so I decided like the week before that I was going to go on that Saturday. And so automatically when you sign up, you get signed up to you get access to a chat that's just for the people that are doing GART. And so I jumped in the chat and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And one person, I guess their first GART had been in Arizona, and somebody had mentioned, oh, we had a meetup in Arizona of all the people we met at GART. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And so I don't think I was just copycatting them. I said, maybe because this is SoCal, like, let me start a SoCal chat and see if people want to like start chatting. So I started this chat, and by the end of the weekend, I had 50 people in there. But I mean, what had
Wow.
happened is we decided to have a meetup of SoCal people or anyone who wanted to join us at the gap that they had. They had like a 2.5 hour gap or something between the one live show and the last show on Saturday and what they had done earlier. And so I said, well, let's meet up on the rooftop bar and let's like
Mhm.
get to know each other so that it's not weird, when you're doing a meetup where you're more likely to go to a meetup because you already know people. So me, it was just kind of like I'm trying to feed my try to calm my social anxiety down.
Yeah.
So I created this like group where I already knew people. So when I went to the GART, I'm like, oh my God, I know you. So instant, like you didn't feel like you're there by yourself, even though it wouldn't have been
Yeah.
a problem. A lot of people did that, but I just didn't know. So anyways, we started having meetups, and we had a really strong group. I mean, like over 100 people in the group. And now, of course, not everybody shows up, but when one guy started doing weekly Zoom calls for our SoCal people. So we were doing all these calls, and after a while, that guy from somewhere else knew Scott, Be at the Parade.
Yep.
And Scott, I guess, had been on a show or did something and invited, people to his Friday night Zoom. And so this guy, Patrick, had jumped on the Zoom and he became kind of friendly with Scott. And one day he invited Scott on our Zoom, and Scott came in and it was a lot of fun and whatever, you know. And then the next week he's like, I invited a friend of mine. I hope that's okay. And it was Tim. And he wasn't even on camera, which was funny, but we started, and he probably came on kind of late in our Zoom. And there were only a few people there, but we all started talking, and like Tim and I instantly just kind of went directly into this very deep conversation. It was deeply spiritual, deeply connected, like totally like, I don't get to talk to people like this very often because not everybody's at that level of understanding or belief or whatever. And so it was kind of like Zoom. We just honed in on each other and started chatting. And it was just such a flow. It was like a dance that just kind of, everything just kind of flowed out of us. And there was a moment where I just went like, oh God, we're on a Zoom. Oops. And I look around and everyone's just kind of like, you could tell they're kind of riveted by the conversation, but they didn't know what to say. They didn't know how to add to it or whatever. So they just kind of let us talk. So as it turns out, there was another group I was a part of that both of them got involved in. So it was on another night. So twice a week, he and I would start chatting. And then eventually I got invited to the Friday night Zoom. And it was just so obvious that there was a flow. We just kept talking. But of course, you know, we're halfway across the world from each other. It was just beautiful conversation, beautiful dance. There was no expectation. There was no thought of anything because it's like, come on, that's stupid. And so we just managed to get into this depth of connection that was unbelievable. And, you know, we suddenly realized, like, I think something's happening here. We might need to see what this is.
Yeah.
Well, to Michelle's point, it was away from all the usual touch points that you would do if you went on a date with someone.
Yeah.
Like, how do they dress? You know, are there manners? Like, what do they look like?
Do they stink?
Yeah, like we were kind of having conversations around what can you do with consciousness, and can you share consciousness, and can you, like, do we really create our own reality? All the stuff that you guys know I like to chat about. But
yes.
Finding a lady on the other side of the planet that was just in the identical place was so much fun. And but it was a strange thing because we jokingly say that as a point of contact, it's actually quite brilliant because it puts everything in a little bit in the right order to some extent.
Connection, yeah. The connection was of the highest order because there's no physical. I mean, you know, I've noted that, you know, in the past when there's like some draw to someone, there's an attraction on any level or multiple levels, the natural thing that your body does is wants to come together physically too.
Right.
And
yes.
when that happens, it can actually change. Like it can actually stop the depth of connection on a spiritual level. And so instead, when we're this far apart, it's like that's all we have. And then every once in a while, we're just like we're on the same plane together, you know. So it's a very interesting experience, but it's probably the most it's the most enriching that I've had. Because that's you actually are always in communication. And then just going through things and exploring, and it's amazing.
I mean, it had obviously for you to come in together with that level of conversation, it had to happen that way. I mean, that's how cool it is, you know?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is such an amazing story because you're right, Tim. Mostly when you go on a blind date or something, it's the first impression and you're talking, you know, but you guys just you didn't, there wasn't any need for that because you were on different sides of the world and you could just dive to a conversation that most people couldn't have, but you could have it with each other. And so that is cool.
It's very strange, like when I first came here, it was obviously it was contextualized in what we've shared, but it's also still very much without major expectation. And you know, we jokingly say, "Oh, like thank goodness you didn't have tinea or terrible BO like that." So much good conversation, and then
Yeah, I know. Well, thank God for that. Oh my gosh, that is good. Yes, that's
Confirm.
so fun. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Well, I know you guys are having a blast. Well, I want to show a couple pictures and you could tell us where you are.
Oh,
Where are you there?
This was Redondo Beach, close to where I am. A sunset because he gets to see the sunrise over his ocean. So I took him. That
Oh,
was the first sunset we experienced, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his first trip here. So a year ago, 1 year ago,
wow.
probably day 2, I reckon.
that might have been.
That's a glorious picture. That's wild. I didn't even think about the sunrise sunset thing. Oh my gosh,
Right?
very cool.
Different coasts. That was recently. A year later, I went to go visit him in Sydney. So that's obviously the
Oh,
Sydney Opera House. Yeah. It was so beautiful, so much fun, and got to meet almost the whole fam and lots of
oh,
friends. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was beautiful, and see a
oh,
beautiful place.
wow. Yeah, I
Nice
want to
harbour.
hear more about Australia. Was that uh where was that?
So that's San Diego on the harbour.
That was this trip
Just
2 weeks
2
ago.
weekends ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
were hanging out
nice.
So
with some
that's
Anon friends.
look at
I
the
know.
shirt.
I know. A track was there,
Michelle
right?
bought me. Trish, look at that shirt Michelle bought me. Almost certainly a kid.
Ah,
That was not planned.
You know, I
oh
know.
my
When you
God.
said it earlier, I mean, that shirt's going to come up in a photo.
Go to
That's
Live
Oh
19
my
if you want to go. If you want to get a shirt. That's one of
yes.
Mark's creations.
Oh, I love it. And so are those buildings behind you? Is that San Diego?
Yes, we were doing a 2.5 hour harbor cruise, like a sunset cruise.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we were there
So
with some
nice.
friends. It was beautiful. It was perfect.
Heard y'all
Now,
had a great time.
and I've only been to San Diego once, and I remember the weather was spectacular. I've only been there one
Yeah.
time.
Well, it was
Oh,
Yeah,
a beautiful weekend. It
yeah,
was
we had a.
I lived there briefly.
Oh, you did?
2000,
oh, wow.
2010.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. And that's crazy. Was that
Yeah,
windy?
it's
It
a
was wind. It was crazy. It was hilarious. It almost looks
Where
like lightning's about to strike, but no, it
it
oh
wasn't.
wow.
where was that?
That's back in Oh no, hang on. No,
That was
that's just near Wollongong
that was
on
up
the
at,
way down to Wollongong.
was that at the Nasho?
Nasho.
Wow.
So we have a thing in Australia where we abbreviate everything, and so
Oh.
the Royal National Park, which is south of Sydney,
Oh.
is referred to as the Nasho.
The
Oh.
Nasho.
And
And you can look it up
and
online.
Michelle
and it
didn't believe me, and I said it's got its own Wikipedia page. The Nasho is the Royal National Park, so no one else gets to call it the Nasho except that
Oh.
one. National
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. This was out to dinner?
This was Thanksgiving. Tim came out for Thanksgiving. That was his first experience with Thanksgiving at my sister's house. It was beautiful. Whole
Ah.
huge table of people, family. It was a good time.
Oh, it looks like a lot of people.
Yes.
Is
Big
this the
long table.
Thanksgiving? Was this the event where one of your family members mentioned the papers that Tim had actually wrote?
Yeah,
Was it Steve?
Yeah, it was. It was
My brother-in-law's brother.
Yeah. So I'd met him for the first time at this function.
Yeah, that's right.
correct,
He
yeah.
was all
And he brought it up, and you said, "Oh, I actually
Well,
wrote
not
that."
quite. No, he'd been forewarned. He knew.
Yeah, he knew.
Oh,
He
okay.
knew his brother. Yeah.
Okay.
That was it. Yeah, all of that's really strange. I mean, you guys will realize how accidental everything is in this movement. Like, I mean, I get that there's probably some real feds moving around, but I'm pretty confident most of our friend
It
group.
might be me. Just saying.
But tell us that story because a lot of people haven't heard that with him coming up and asking you.
Well, that's so. I was involved with an Australian friend, one of the smartest men I know, and we wrote a body of work that's, I think it's 80 or 90 articles in total, many in different series, and it kind of went from September 2021 through somewhere in 24, I think, maybe the last year or so we haven't written, but it became a really popular body of work. People quite enjoyed it. It became a little bit famous. It was being read by Patrick Gunnels back at the time on the Epic Thread stuff. And so we, you become this person who was an anon, was me and another guy. And so we were kind of known in it. We weren't really hiding who we were, but it was in Australia, we don't have our free speech laws. So we're just being really respectful of, we're providing evidence to support that potentially we've got tyrannical government well and truly in play in most Western countries and probably just about every country. And so we were respectful of that. And so what ends up happening is someone is like, oh, Michelle's seeing one of the authors of this body of work, but her brother-in-law and this guy had been following it for a year or more. And it was like, what? It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the name? What's the name of the work?
It's on Substack. It's Prussiagate.
That's right.
Okay, that's right.
Prussiagate.
But one of the craziest things in Australia, so you imagine we went out for lunch once to a fellow's house and he was talking to everyone. So about the idea, oh, you've got to read Prussiagate. This is incredible. And I'm listening going, wait, what? And so anyway, one of the guests who knew he came over and just said, hey, you might want to have a chat to this guy. And he was talking and I started talking and he looked at me and he said, you wrote it? And I said, well, me and a mate. And he goes, like who? And I said, oh, that big tall guy who's also in your house over there. And he's like, what? I thought you were a team of solicitors in the US or something.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That is such a small world.
It's crazy.
Really?
And then not long after, his daughter, I think she was 16 at the time, maybe 17, she was at the gymnasium in Australia, in Sydney. And there's these three guys chatting with each other, and she's just at the counter and listening. And this one guy's talking to his two mates who are probably 20 or 21, and he just goes, look, if you don't know what's going on in the world, you have to read this thing I found called Prussiagate on Substack.
No.
And his daughter is sitting there just going, oh, Dad, like, she couldn't believe it. So,
oh my gosh, that is wild. That's crazy. So you just never know who's reading these things. That's just so interesting to me, Well,
I find it's interesting too how there's so many Australians and Canadians that are more up to speed on U.S. Constitution and the way our government works than our own citizens.
Yeah.
Like I playfully said to Scott once when he was pointing that out, I think I said that's because you have it and we need it. There is a sense that you take for granted. I think I see plenty of people, not you guys, but just people going, oh, it'll be fine. Like our government will look after everything. Like we've got our freedom. And you guys, the anons and the people that are awake are realizing, well, you only have your freedom while ever you want it and while ever you're vigilant enough to retain it. And so, you guys are coming back with a revision of 1776 of sorts. Whereas in Australia, for example, most people would just think, oh, we've got First Amendment rights. Like we can say whatever we want, but we actually don't.
Wow.
And I don't worry too much about the Second Amendment. I know that that's very popular to talk about, that, we've lost our gun rights. And the truth is we never had them. What happened in 96 where we had to hand them in was essentially all the unregistered ones. But I can still go and get a gun. I probably either have to be a farmer or be a part of a pistol club or a rifle club. So it's not the freedom that you guys have, but it's, we can still have them. But the First Amendment is really critical because if you can control what people say, you're actually engaging in mind control. If you think really carefully about it. And that is shocking until you think about it and you go, oh my gosh. if you're not allowed to say something, you are well and truly in people's heads, because the idea always precedes speech, and so
Exactly.
controlling the ideas we're allowed to have.
Wow, it really is. That's exactly right. Well, before we get into some uh, uh, other topics, I have to ask you like just a fun question, because one thing that I think I remember, it was you, Tim, when I interviewed you. You said that when you came to the United States, that when you went to restaurants, people were you got the best service as opposed to where you are, because the people here work on tips. Do I recall that correctly? You said that?
Yeah.
And you just got such amazing service here. You said almost too much. They kept filling your water. They kept coming over every 5 minutes, but people were snobby too, because they expect good service because they do tip, but in Australia they don't tip and the service isn't very good. And that stuck into my head. I thought that was so interesting. And so uh Dr. Michele, when you went to visit him, did you all ever go out to dinner? Did you notice that? What was there any difference?
We did. I didn't notice it. I mean, we didn't go to that many dinners. And when we did, we were in areas where I think the tourists are, congregate. So I actually did not. I wouldn't say that the service was any different than I've had here.
Mhm. But I just find that so interesting, because that really stuck in Tim's head. I mean, that made such an impression on you, that you brought that up, and it made an impression on me too, because you never think about things like that, actually, um, in different
Yeah, so
countries.
we don't really like some of the high-end restaurants would have table service,
Yeah.
at which point you would tip. It's pretty conventional, but a lot of stuff you just order your meal and then they bring it to you. And at some point, if you want another drink, just wave and someone will wander over. It's like, or there's a jug of water on the table. Sometimes you might go and fill the jug up yourself, just depending on the level of restaurant and service you're at. But we haven't had a tipping culture because the pay is good. So even now, I think most restaurants, if you tip, everything would go into a pool and get distributed evenly amongst everyone.
Yeah.
Whereas my understanding is it's a little bit more linked to the person in your context, I think.
Oh, hey, when I was a waitress, I didn't want to share with anyone else, because I was a really good waitress and I wanted I wanted to keep my tips for sure. Well, I wanted to bring up a couple of just little topics here to talk about with some, legendary people that are very smart and have cool things to say. A cellular biologist of Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton. This is just really short. It's only 37 seconds, but I thought it was really good.
We're really very powerful, and yet we have been programmed to be not powerful, and that's how other people control us. And I love my life because I go out and say, no, you are so powerful. You just didn't have the knowledge. Knowledge is power. A lack of knowledge is a lack of power. And we've been deprived of knowledge of who we really are. So when I go out there and I see people recover their lives from devastating diseases or whatever is going on, once they've taken the power of their mind and put it back.
And
Only 5% of the day are you operating from your conscious creative mind.
So I don't want to go there yet. So what do you think about that, Tim?
Yeah, so what's crazy in our connection, I found Bruce Lipton independently in about 2015, and I loved it. Was very much emerging into the work I did as we were writing the book Feeding the Egregore, which is the idea that energized thought forms can have a physiological impact on your behavior and your body and your health. And we all talk about that now a bit more openly. 10 years on, we realize that, bitterness can actually really do so much damage to you at a cellular level.
Yes.
So it was logical that I kind of ran into this guy who was leading the way. The Biology of Belief, I think, was one of his early books. And I loved that and started exploring his work. And then ironically, when I met Michele on Zoom, she's like, oh my gosh, this guy has read all of that and understands that stuff. And I'm not holistically trained or medically trained in any sense. But earlier on, I had explored healthy eating and explored a book by a US guy called Dr. Joel Furman called Super Immunity. And so I was already there understanding a lot of that. So I guess, yeah, to answer your question, I love it.
Yeah.
I think we should explore that radically and urgently and expansively, that principle, because there's gold in them there hills.
Yeah. There really is. And when he talks about knowledge, he's talking about the inner knowledge of us, who we really are, and our power and our strength and all that we can do to heal ourselves, and which leads to the next one. But and it involves so many things. And then I want Michele to comment on this, because it all ties in. But this is Dolores Cannon.
Cancer in all different parts of his body. As soon as the doctors could fix it in one part, make it
A
go
man
away,
came to
it
her
would
with
come up
cancer
in
in his
another
body.
part of his body. And it just kept moving from part to part. So I asked him, what about your personal life? Is there anything going on in there that you have anger with? He says, oh yes, my ex-wife. He said, I hate her. He said, she has the children, I can't see them, and I absolutely hate her. Can you see what he was doing? He was holding all of this inside. And I told him, according to what I have found, he wasn't going to get well until he released these feelings. He has to let it go, let it go. And, of course, that means forgiveness. He had to forgive the first wife and let it go. He said, I can't. You don't know what she has done to me. That if I do that, then she has won. Well, she will win if you die. So you see, holding on to these emotions, we think we're getting back at the other person. We're actually hurting ourselves.
Yeah. So Michele, what are your thoughts on that?
I could go on for an hour on that one. I mean, it's a lot of the things that I do in my practice. So I'm a chiropractor, but I also do other work. One of the things I do is called neuro-emotional technique, and it's a technique that allows you to determine what emotions actually you're storing and where. And it's based in Chinese medicine, how they discovered that every organ holds the energy of specific emotions. So, for example, the liver holds anger, resentment, the lungs hold grief and sadness, kidneys fear, things like that. And it actually was proven. And there's an amazing book called Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert. She's a biologist who actually proved that this is the case, that specific emotions are encoded as specific neuropeptides, and each organ has receptors for specific neuropeptides. In other words, emotions are held in organs. And so what this person's saying is 1,000% true. And the key is to, once you've already stored it, find out what those emotions are and release those. And there's a physical way that can be done. And of course, then there's the spiritual way of just like letting go. But the other thing I'll say is all of our emotions are not somebody else's, right? Like if you're holding on to anger because she did X, Y, and Z to you, or he did X, or whatever, they didn't do that to you. You did that to you.
Right.
That we react is our story. It's not their story. And it's never that somebody else has that power over you unless you allow it. And they still don't have the power over you. You're just disempowering yourself. So what this guy was saying was 100% true. The how of it is the exercise, right? That's the mastery of this world where we do have this mind. It gets filled with these ideas and these programs, and those program our responses to things that happen in our lives. And a lot of those responses are actually, even though they're emotions, they're from here. They're not actually from the heart, right? So it's the separation. When you're in those emotions, you're not in heart space. You're stuck in head space. Your head is angry, not your heart.
Yes.
Your heart, I think, only has the capacity for deep love and connection. And that's like the ultimate emotion. And so love does heal everything. If you can get into that space, you have to let go. And this ties into all the egregore work, which is all that head. It's the ego body, it's the ego self that has all these reactions and holds on to all these ideas and beliefs and restrictions and all of that. It's the heart. When we settle out of our heads and go into our hearts, anything is possible. And that goes back to what Bruce Lipton was saying, which is the knowing. The knowingness is down here, not here. So many people try to learn, and even spirituality goes this way with a lot of people too, is that they do it from here. The question is, do they transfer it from here down into their hearts? And the heart is where you experience it. This is where you just think about it. The thinking does nothing.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Can you give us the name of that book again? Molecules of Emotion by who?
Candace
Mm-hmm.
P-E-R-T.
Pert. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. All that. And so I want to continue this conversation with both of you. And I just want to do, because if you're talking about the heart and love. And so I have one more with Greg Braden that I want to share.
We can choose to feel love even when the circumstances of the world don't give us the reason to feel love. And look at what happens when we do. When you choose to feel love in your body, you set into motion a cascade of positive, life-affirming chemical events from your brain all the way down to the molecules of your DNA in response to the frequency and to the chemical signature of love, regardless of what the world is showing us. Or do we react from the conditioned patterns of fear that we have been taught to use to defend us in the world today? Well, it's our divine power to choose to feel compassion. We're the only form of life that can do that. It's our divine power to choose to feel gratitude, to choose to forgive, to choose to heal. Ultimately, it's our power to choose to love. So this struggle between good and evil, it's real. It's the blueprint for every event in your personal life, and it's the blueprint for every event that you're seeing on the world stage all around you right now. We can choose.
So what do you, I'd love your thoughts on that, either of you.
I mean, I love that. We've both mentioned egregore a couple of times. For those who don't know that book,
please, will you explain all of that, Tim? Explain all of that.
It's an egregore is an energized thought form or an idea that is powerfully energized by many, many people. So one of the really good examples we're living through is Orange Man Bad.
Yeah.
It's an idea that was created, put out on the airwaves, and many people just went yes. And their passion and human intent mobilizes this thing. Why? Because we're all creators. Like we can create anything in any direction. And fear and this, if you like, the lower frequency realm has led us to creating ideas that seek to control people or minimize against loss, whatever they are. Everything's an egregore in a way. Like the health system is a fear-driven system where we just need to be clever enough so that we're smarter than the masses so that we get a good job and then don't live in poverty. Yeah. All of that narrative is a fear-driven narrative. I'm not saying it hasn't served us well or that it's even bad. It's just been the human experience for this time. And so you look at Trump derangement syndrome, that's what an egregore can do to people. It can literally drive them insane. And I'm not going to go into it too much because it's kind of, we can go round and round. But essentially, it's a memory loop that is engaging with memory and judgments and circling around and around and around, and it's engaging you to engage with it. And it does that through belief, a sense of importance, or the things you want at a very basic level, like a carnal level, for want of a better word. So they're everywhere. And so what we're talking about is love. What Greg said there was that the expression of love is a much higher frequency and it can just become you. And Michelle kind of alluded to it earlier. you can't actually feel anger. You can only think it. It's an egregore. There's no, if you really unpack it, anger is just a tantrum at having missed out on something you wanted. Like it's all in your head. And you know, I fix a position that this is where I'm going to be, and then I miss out, and it's like, oh damn it, and like all of a sudden you got this emotional response. Your soul is sitting there going, wow, that's not real. Like I'm living my best, because you're on, it's like we're on autopilot, almost zombies, getting all the cues and information from this energized thought form that's not actually within us. It's centuries of belief and training and rules that humanity has agreed with collectively. And so that's the same with anything. Frustration is a thought, not a feeling.
Yes.
And equally, conditional love is a thought.
Yes.
It lives in a realm where there are ideas that exist. I love you, provided you're hitting the mark with these series of ideas that I've got in my head that I might not even talk to you about. But if you fail to, then we've got a problem. And whereas unconditional love is really, it's just a sense of knowing that the soul you're with is having this beautiful journey in this petri dish of life. And whatever it is, they might be behaving terribly badly, and you can still love them. You might say, well, I'm not going to have deep conversations with you because I don't enjoy it. That's fine. But what he's saying is you can have the higher energy present with you, and it's love, and it's away from fear. And you know, Rodney, I know, touched on that on your show last Thursday, where he's very good at understanding, and your consciousness will, your reality will follow where you place your consciousness. So if you're only focused on all the shit that everyone's doing and the turmoil in the world, and you're just driving yourself insane, and then you engage in fear, and then you live that reality inside that thought form.
And it all ties together. And back to Michelle's point, I mean, all of that affects every part of us on a cellular level, and gets cells out of whack so that it turns into some sort of something. You know, it's all so perfectly woven together, right, Michele?
Yeah. I mean, the idea that we are separate, right? That we are, there's this wall around me. It's called skin, and that's all I am. It's not, that's completely false. I want to add to what kind of came to me when he was speaking was this, he was said, when you go into fear and all this, I mean, there's different levels of consciousness. Fear is very low. We all have those levels of consciousness within us. And if we reach this higher level, it's like not everybody reaches higher levels of consciousness, but even if you reach a high level of consciousness, you still have all the fear and pride, and that's still all possible within you. But it's how much you practice. It's like it's practice. You don't just go, oh, I'm enlightened and it's done, right? That'd be really nice, but it's not how it works. There's the mastery of it then. Okay, you've reached a higher level, but you have to master all these levels, right? And we can easily, like the minute we disconnect, we are down right back into fear, because the collective, the larger number that are actively in a level of consciousness, the more energy it has, which is exactly what Tim's talking about with the egregore. It's like it's an energetic that can draw you in. And if you're being unconscious, you're going to be pulled into the consciousness level of the day, which a lot of times is fear. And that hasn't been engineered. And I think he was talking about that. As we know, you go into school and they feed you all this, they put you in here. Like all of these things have been a way, I think, in large part, a way of disconnecting us from that true knowing. And it's like the more levels and the more practice we have in using this, thinking this is the most important thing, this is how you're going to make a living, this is how you're going to survive, you don't have time to get down here. And so very few people actually take time to, whatever it is, meditate, pray, pursue spirituality, whatever it is, elevate themselves. Like, we sit, we're tired, we turn on the TV. Well, what are we doing there? We're getting programmed. It's all the same. So we've been programmed to stay at a very low level of consciousness. So going back to what even Bruce Lipton was saying is people have fallen out of the knowing. We have the access to it, but we don't even know that path exists. When somebody opens up that concept for anybody and they realize, like, I can create whatever I want to create, I can heal
Yeah.
it, and I can do this in an instant. It's a very powerful thing. And
So bad.
I want to add one thing, because I think this is really important in the world of health and healing. The worst thing somebody can do is diagnose you.
Yes.
The absolute worst thing in the world you can get is a diagnosis.
Yes.
Because that's what happens. Oh my God, what does this mean? Google, oh, cancer, death, this, whatever it is. Like, oh, this, I have a sniffle can end up being, I have, sinus cancer. Whatever.
Yes.
And so that the worst thing is when people lock into that, and then all they do is they go online because they're fearful, because they've
Right.
already been programmed to be in fear of what's happening in their bodies, instead of saying, okay, why is this the perfect manifestation of something? Like, what have I been putting? What's the input that is responding in this way? And when you look at life that way, it's like you take responsibility. It's not a doctor's responsibility to take it away from you. It's yours. And there's nothing to take away. There's only something to fill. It's like, I've lost my way somewhere. Why is this able to happen in my body? Why is there not a perfect expression of being? And so when you go back and you start looking at your life and you start, correcting those things, and then you have, with your belief and with your heart, really understanding that healing is mine to have. All I have to do is let it flow. Suddenly we're all in a better place. I'm starting to feel, I've been really angry lately, and Tim knows, all the spraying, all the stuff. And then I think about, like, our food supply and our water is toxic and this is toxic. And I'm like, and I've been teaching this to my patients forever, because it's important. Like, if you can remove some of the toxins in your life, at least you take some of the stress, you take control of some of the stressors, and then the ones you can't control don't take over your life. And it used to be that I'd have to tell people little bits at a time. And now I'm realizing with what happened in 2020, people are really waking up to that and realizing, like, oh, all these things, like, I don't want to participate in this anymore. I'm not going to buy fluoridated toothpaste anymore. So those companies are going to go out of business. What's interesting, though, is I've been sitting here going, this toxic load, and I'm seeing it in my patients, is so overwhelming. How do we get out of this? And it's through everything we've just been talking about, I think.
Yeah. I do too.
Yeah. I like, how are you not expressing perfectly, regardless of your external environment? Create the internal environment that is perfect expression of life, and none of this external stuff affects you. Again, this is a road to mastery. I haven't mastered it yet, but I'm starting to realize, I'm starting to have that real knowing that I think this is our only way through what the nightmare we've created on this planet.
Most definitely.
And Michele, too, I've been talking about this point with a friend of mine. The diagnosis. How many stories have you heard from people who said, oh, yep, so-and-so was diagnosed 2 months to live, died 2 months to the day, the doctor was right? I mean, it gets in your head.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense as to why the cabal, the system, Obamacare looked like this great health plan when they rolled it out, and it preventive care, you're going to get to go to it's going to pay for all of your appointments, all your preventive wellness checks, whatever they want to call it. It's nothing but trying to get you into that mindset of, 6-month checkup, 1 year checkup. I mean, I'm not, got to get your yearly mammogram.
Yeah, I know. All of that.
It's such an entrapment.
But wait, what about babies after they're born? Why do they need to go to the doctor? There's nothing wrong with them. They're perfect.
Right. It's all that, because they get you from the very beginning. And before we talk more about it, I just wanted to acknowledge MedExam, who is such a doll. She gifted $20 and says, always love seeing Tim and Michele. Thanks so much, Ellen and Tricia, for this fantastic interview. Very nice. Thank you. for that exam. She's so
Thank you, Madam
wonderful.
Ma'am.
Yeah, so kind. And and I just love having conversations like this because it does reaffirm that, when we learn about things, it makes sense. At first, you're like, why would they poison the food? Why would they poison the water? Why would they? And then when you get to a different point where you realize because we are so powerful, because we can heal ourselves if we have proper food, if we have loving thoughts, if we don't get triggered by things, it all starts to make sense. And then you also bring in the spirituality of knowing that the God has this divine plan for all of us. It makes sense, right?
Yeah. I like I would challenge anyone to look at the Western medicine against sorcery and witchcraft and find me any difference.
Mhm.
Like it's and Michelle said a diagnosis. The only thing is absent from that is the dark skinned witch doctor pointing a bone at you. Like
Yeah,
we put them in a really beautiful face and a nice white lab coat and a suit and tie, and then
yes,
mesmerize us, but they're still doing the same thing.
yes,
It's devastating, and I think like it's a really awkward conversation to have, but Michelle started it, and it's a good one. That is take responsibility for everything.
yeah,
And I think a lot of my awakening, as I left church and started challenging things, I started to realize that essentially the whole idea of what certainly my experience of Christianity was that if at any point something went wrong, I could blame Satan as some external thing happening to me and just maybe pray some prayers and hope for the best. And I guess I was courageous enough. Maybe it was my soul prompting me, but I went, well, what? I'm not going to disbelieve in that a dark entity, but if I'm truly growing and am a child of God, then and I'm in a realm of love, not fear, then that entity can't be next to me. Once I'm in love, the concept of Satan can't be there because
right.
it's an accuser. And
Yeah,
accusations require memory. That's that judgment memory loop that I described as the egregore. So
yeah,
I can't hear it if I can ascend beyond it. And then it was like, well,
yes,
hang on a minute. If I'm still here and experiencing things and being frustrated, I'm going to use them. It's like, thank you. That's a chink in my armor. I appreciate you being here to show me that. And it's like Satan's going, oh, damn it. Don't go near that guy because he'll just get stronger,
yeah,
That's
which
the
again is a made up mind idea. But it started to show me that everything is my responsibility. And I need to look in the mirror. And equally, then we move into food and medicine. This entity is not like we call it big pharma or pharmakeia, which it's not doing anything that it can make you do. Everything is contract. It's an offering. It says, hey,
right,
put this pill in your body. Now, I get sometimes you've got to be brave to say no, potentially even lose a job. I know many people that lost jobs during COVID because they didn't put something in their body, but they didn't put something in their body because it was an
right.
offering. And what we're learning, I think, that's some of your audience will know this, but there's a Bible verse in Revelation that says all nations or people of all nations on earth will be deceived by the sorcery of the merchant traders. So I think you've got the idea of merchants and travel around the sea through all the straits and everything that's coming up now. But
Yeah,
you've then got the all people, all nations on earth will be deceived by the sorcery. And the word sorcery in the Bible is pharmakeia.
hmm,
And
wow.
it's
Yep.
very profound. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yep.
No, I mean, you can't. But it all has to be. It's like it all has to be understood. We all have to bring all of this to the surface, so it feels so chaotic and it feels so disjointed. But it all has to be brought to our knowledge, so that way we can understand it and move beyond it. And I'm grateful that I'm one of the ones that, with all of you and everybody here with us on X and on Rumble, that are the ones that can see it and understand it and face what we've been lied to about, and hit it head on. I'm ready, and you're all ready to do it, and we're supposed to be doing that, and as more and more people are aware of what is happening, that we've been lied to about all these industries, and the doctors have been brainwashed too, thinking that they know what's right. I mean, everybody has. They all have. And so it's going to be a fascinating journey as we continue to unravel all of this.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's a really good illustration. Most people are not inherently bad natured. Like
Right.
I make the point about Western medicine, but doctors are just people. But when you're highly educated and you've been told that you're the authority in that space, the egregore that creates in around your own self-importance and ego is very powerful. So to
Very.
have a non-trained person come in and just go, oh, no, I'm not listening to you. I'm going to, like what I said, I've said to doctors that I worked out 15 years ago that you lot were experimenting on me. I'm hijacking your experiment. The guy couldn't speak. He's looking at me with venom. And I said, see ya. I haven't been back for 20 years to a doctor.
Yeah. Yes.
My
Tricia,
dad,
you
my
want to say
dad
something?
used to always say that. He used to always say, I don't want to be a guinea pig. Did not like going to the doctors. I just wish he was still here. We would have so much cool stuff to talk about because I know he'd be into Q. I know
Yeah.
he would be.
Well, he's with you. He's definitely with you. Well, as we come to a close with this, I do want to say, I'm always in a pretty good mood, and I feel very grateful and at peace with this, is what we're talking about. But I'm also, as I'm interviewing all of these people, and as I go to this event with all these different people from different truth bubbles and everything that there are, and the one common denominator is that we're coming, even though it might be a little bit rocky or messy here for a little bit, we're coming into the greatest time ever. And people in every single category, whether you're decoding Q or you're looking at the stars or you're I mean, every corner that I talked to, they're all agreeing on that one point. So I think these conversations are powerful, and they're needed. And I think we help all of us together, the ones who are listening, the ones in the chat, that we're all raising everybody up by just having this discussion. And I just think I could feel it. I could feel it. I actually see Mark Messina is in the chat. I
Yeah.
appreciate you so much popping in. That was so nice, Mark.
I was just going to
Um,
say, Mark, we heard what you did on that sailboat last weekend. You should have been in the beginning.
Mark
can
launched,
confirm.
Mark launched with a comment. He said, "You're an egregore," and we were joking about the fact, when you say something about someone and you retort, "No, you're an egregore," which was a sign of Tourette's. So we've explored for the last few months whether Mark actually has Tourette's syndrome.
That's funny. And last night, his huddle last night was of this ilk. I mean, he was talking to three folks. I've interviewed George, and they were all talking about this and healing and what needs to happen, and so more and more people are having these types of conversations, and it's just, I can feel it in my heart that this is what we're supposed to be doing right now, and we're supposed to be talking about it, sharing it with other people, and that's going to help bring this whole thing into divine goodness, exactly at the divine time of when it's supposed to happen. So I just want to bring this last picture up because it's so divine itself. The two of you are so sweet. Where was that?
This is at the South Coast Botanical Garden. That's actually pretty close to where I live. And in fact, they might have opened this this weekend. They have a tropical butterfly pavilion that they have for several months, where you go in there and it's full of butterflies, and you get to you
Oh,
can get these little feeders with nectar, and they come and they eat the nectar. It's really cute. They
Oh,
learn,
how fun. Such fun adventures, really. So
you know.
cool. Well, this has been a dream come true for me. And besides just talking to the two of you, hearing your story of the two of you finding each other, and then also just sharing something together with the people who are hanging out with us. That it's such the most incredible time to be alive and to be able to talk about this and know that, it's good to do this and share with people. And you can tell I just get overwhelmed in the most wonderful way. And I just feel so, so grateful. So thank you so much for spending time with us, because I think people are going to come back and watch shows like this for a long time because they're really powerful. Uh,
Yeah.
and you two are awesome, by the way.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys too.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
so much fun.
yeah. We didn't know
Yeah.
we didn't know we were gonna be doing love stories, Ellen.
I love it.
I
I think it's so important. I just want to add kind of a last thing that's kind of
Yes, please.
burning at me to just speak of. I think, as I've pulled back and looked at like the way things have shifted around, when people lost their accounts and then they came back together and then they started following this and then they started doing this, and then Trump came back and a lot of things kind of just went, and then people realized like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. And they started breathing and they started living. And I think the most important thing right now is they kept us, and they did a pretty good job of keeping us all apart by design, because together we are powerful. And I do think that like we are not, I mean, I'm a total introvert. I can stay alone for, weeks on end, not a problem, which I probably isn't a normal thing. What I've realized that I think the normal state of true humanity, like true open, soul humanity, is we are one, and we are meant to be a tribe or collective. And I think it's like finding our tribes right now is really important, because it supports us when we kind of go, because you can see like what I was saying, like the mastery of keeping these higher levels of consciousness, and I think is supported when you find people who can help bump you when you're kind of having, you're kind of, you drop the ball and you're pissed off or something.
Yeah.
Me a lot for me a lot of times.
Well,
But
I pissed you off.
No. Don't pull me out of like a piss off. But I think it's really important to realize that we get through this as a collective. I think that's what needs to happen, and we need to hold the highest level of being we can, because then we create the more people who are in this higher place, the more we pull up those who haven't reached it yet. It makes an easier path for them. And I think that it becomes an easier path for us when others join us. And I think we just need to always focus on, just really being in this higher place and not getting caught in the, oh my God, how are we going to do this? And no, they're spraying the skies, which I've been doing a lot of lately. But I caught myself realizing that we might not fix this by stopping to do what created it. I think we fix it through a new way. It's a new energetic. Yeah. We're totally, and this is the ascension. This is the awakening. This is where we're moving towards, and people feel it and they don't know necessarily what to do with it, which is why I think having your community is really important. So more for people, more reasons to get together, I think, is important.
Totally agree. And I think that's all divine too, because we have to be together and strengthen each other and lift each other up, because there's going to be a time where we're going to be needed to lift others up as time goes on. So, thank you both so much. You guys are the best, and we love you. And hopefully we'll be able to do this again sometime. Okay.
Love it. Love you guys. Thank you for having us. It's such an honor.
Oh my gosh. Such a joy. Thank you both. And Tim, enjoy the rest of your stay in the United States.
I will.
Okay.
All
right. Take care.
Catch you around in chat rooms and on shows.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.